This season, Liam, we've seen a high volume in injuries across the league, and by the end of Monday's fixtures, two teams will have played 21 games since the season started 15 weeks ago. Both of these teams have played at least six Monday set of games with only one extended break back in March. Is this too much for players to handle?
In theory, yes. The simple answer to that's yes, it is. We know from all the evidence on any sort of soft tissue injuries that people are getting that load is the biggest factor that plays a part in it. And if you're loading the body that amount at that high a level in such a short space of time without the recovery time that's needed for the body to recover, then these injuries are going to happen. And it's been proved this season, with both of those teams.
As an ex-pro yourself, you usually travel to Belfast, play, train there, travel home. How did you physically feel during the course of the season?
No, it definitely had its toll. I think that the travel and Belfast relatively, if you're taking it in terms of League Ireland, is a short distance from Derry to Belfast. But doing that 3 nights a week for training, so I wasn't doing it full time, so I was trying to work as well at the same time full time. It definitely took a toll, and I know we're going to go into pitch surfaces and stuff in a bit, but we changed from a grass pitch up at Solitude to a 3G pitch, and that definitely, for me, as I was a bit older at that stage too, had an impact on my body as well. And we trained on that 3 times a week, played on it every other Saturday, and there's no doubt about it. You could feel the difference.
With a Monday factoring in, like you just said there now about traveling and recovering from travels, how long do you need recovery time, or should a person take before engaging in another high intensity training session or match?
There's loads of different research out there to say, if I'm taking it from my own personal experience, that I'd have done a recovery session the day after any match. Ideally you're doing 2 days like that before you're going into training again or playing a match. And that's at the bare minimum. These guys now, they're probably getting, if they're playing Friday, Monday, they're in the Saturday morning for a recovery session. They're preparing the next day in a training session for the Monday night match. And you can only prepare so much because all the sports science guides and the sports science evidence now, which is massive, even at that level, they're being told, you can't load them any more than X, Y, or Z.
I often hear stories about going from different playing surfaces, during these games in close proximity. For example, Friday, you could be playing on a well-kept grass surface. Then Monday, you're playing another 90 minutes on Astro. Can this be a factor in high number of injuries that we're experiencing in the league?
I think anecdotally, then yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Players will tell you that is having an impact. And from my own personal experience, I know that it did. As far as the 3G surfaces go, I felt it a lot more after playing on a 3G pitch than I did on a grass surface. And if you speak to any of the players, which I have done, they'll tell you, that players don't like it. Players don't like it. They don't like playing on it. It's not nice to play on, which I can verify. It's harder to recover from. And I think it is having an impact. Although, I've looked in from knowing I'm going to be speaking to you, I've looked into a bit of the research that's been done on it in terms of injury and physio articles and stuff. And there's no massive evidence one way or the other. There's some research out there from the early days when these things came in Scandinavia that said these reduced injury rates in professional teams, whereas nowadays it's pretty 50-50. Some studies will say there's no difference. Some will say it increases certain types of injury, which are your soft tissue injuries, your ligaments, your tendons, your muscle pulls, which we're seeing a lot of, as you know, at the Bramley.
So what are you talking about? Are you talking quads? Are you talking calves? What areas?
Talking any soft tissue injury. That could be a muscle pull. Most common ones we'll see are quads and hamstrings in football. There's players out there struggling with calf injuries on a regular basis, and we're getting loads of ankle ligament stuff. There's a couple of guys. I think Cameron has been out recently with an ankle injury again. Even the likes, I don't know what the story with Jordan's injury was. They're the type of ones, especially in that 3G surface when you can't turn as well. You get those soft tissue, the ligament stuff, even the likes of Colin Whelan, who's still working his way back. Last year, we could see what happened to him. His foot got stuck in the surface when he was trying to turn, and he's still not back, So it does have a cost to the team.
But is there still also an argument against grass pitches too, that you can get these types of injuries on there too?
Of course, yes. But there is now, in saying I say there's no great evidence of one over the other. There's more evidence to say that these soft tissue injuries are more common on the likes of the 3G AstroTurf pitches, whereas the traumatic injuries tend to happen more in grass because you get more of the slide tackles and the more reckless tackles happening in grass. People tend to be a bit more cautious on the 3G surfaces with the tackles.
John Russell, Sligo Rovers manager, last week made a decision to restrict certain players' time on the Brandywell pitch to prevent injury. Then he suggested in the build-up to the game that the league rips up both the Astro pitches in the Premier Division. Now, Scotland are currently putting this idea to a vote soon. Would you be quick to back this stance?
From a professional point of view now, as a physio, I would say grass is a better surface, but also as an ex-player, from playing on both surfaces and having to play every second week on a 3G, I would vote for getting rid of them as well. From that point of view, I think the experience of playing on it isn't as good as a player. You can't play as good a football on it, in my opinion. And the injuries, it definitely was sore on me as I got to my late 20s, early 30s playing on it. I struggled to recover more than I did with the grass. Now, that could have been an age factor. However, I still think that I was professional enough to look after myself well enough and try to recover well, and I struggled more on the 3G. So, from a personal point of view, I would back that stance. But there's no massive weight of numbers or evidence out there that would back it in terms of saying, oh, there's overwhelming evidence that one surface is better than the other from an injury point of view.